With the tremendous distances involved, travel to the stars would seem impossible. But with man's endeavor and resourcefulness, these problems will be overcome as they always have been in the past. Scientific estimates tell us that there will be a breakthrough in space travel in the near future. When the boundaries of distance break down, the Earth will become our home, the universe, our world.
From a point of physics, there are possible models today which may enable shortcuts in the space-time continuum. One of these shortcuts may be black holes. Black holes are the remainder of very large stars which have collapsed to a so-called singularity. And when stars do collapse to a singularity, they leave a tunnel, a gravitational tunnel behind, a rotating tunnel. And in this tunnel, space and time has a completely different meaning than to the normal usage that we make of space and time. Thus, in a tunnel, the so-called Einstein-Rosen bridge, time runs backwards. So a spacecraft which would dive into such a tunnel would move forwards in space and backwards in time.
When we talk about hyperspaces and opening up the number of dimensions, and if we were to build a vehicle, if our science has progressed to this point, our technology, the applied science, if we develop a vehicle that is capable of doing that, traveling across the universe is not traveling through one space. It's flipping into these other spaces where the other one is only a short space away, a few inches away. And so you're talking about flipping rather than going like an arrow through a space-time or a bullet. You simply flip and flip back, and there you are. And so with the control of flipping, you could flip from here, and then you could flip up into the third or fourth dimension higher than this 3. And you could flip back into this dimension, this space-time, only you could flip several galaxies away. You could jump between galaxies.
The third possibility may be dematerialization. Science fiction authors have always mentioned this possibility, and although this may be utopia to us today, sometime in the future it may be possible to dematerialize a spacecraft into pure energy and then beam this spacecraft, the speed of light, to another solar system where it would materialize again, reassemble again, thus bridging these vast distances.
If we have a hyperspatial model, then simply by turning in another direction, a right angle, we would lose one dimension. When we turn 3 right angles, we lose all 3 dimensions. And that would be called full dematerialization. As far as we're concerned, when you turn 1 dimension, you would have lost one dimension, your length, and so you would appear to be a flat plane. You would appear to be a light form. By the way, some 83% or so of the UFO phenomena are just lights at night anyway. Most researchers throw those away. Those are the interesting cases. And particularly interesting are the cases where the light forms materialize into material forms and then dematerialize back into light forms and then fade away. And what I maintain is that you're looking at that phenomenon when you're seeing that. Now, that can be described mathematically, but that phenomenon of the hyperspatial aspects of it does exist, and you can show it. And I printed a photograph that showed the stars right through a dematerializing so-called spaceship. And so you do meet that format, and that is part of the phenomenon.
If NASA has its way, many of the next generation will be residents of Mars, and the move towards this has already begun with the development of a space station. This was the essential first step towards making man a citizen of the universe.
What is really the long-range purpose of the space station? And we have worked on that question for a long time in NASA. We have started in the early 60s under the guidance of Dr. Werner von Braun and others to look at long-range goals beyond the moon, beyond Mars even. And only recently, in fact, it was July 20th, 1989, the 20th anniversary of the landing of Apollo 11 on the moon, that President George Bush proposed a new program, a long-range program, with a goal to return to the moon and eventually go on to Mars, to the United States, as a long-range commitment. And as we develop the space station itself will be used as a test bed, as a laboratory to test new technologies. And you need space to develop those technologies. As long as we are still on Earth, we can just talk about it. The question of which technology to use for this new, what we call the Space Exploration Initiative, that's the name, SEI, Space Exploration Initiative. What technology to use in the area of propulsion or life support or materials and structures and power and communications is being analyzed and investigated by NASA right now. And we're doing it in a number of categories. We're looking at present-day technologies, tomorrow technologies, and advanced technologies which are day after tomorrow.
What was yesterday's science fiction is today's very palpable truth. Grandfather's spine-chilling fantasies have become an indispensable part of modern life. Jesko von Puttkammer was NASA's advisor to the creator of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry.
You know, the reason I worked with Gene Roddenberry was because he wanted us to help him portray a future 200 years from now as we would like it to be. Very positive, technology having become our friend instead of our enemy, technology as a partner of humans. And of course, the story itself of this machine, Voyager or V'ger, looking for its maker, its creator, which is really a metaphor of humans looking for their God. And it's the God-seeker story. And so he wanted NASA to show that the technology which the movie and his TV series depicts is accurate, that the physics is accurate, that the mathematics is accurate, that the astronomy is accurate. The propulsion system of the Star Trek consists of two major elements. One is the energy source, just to provide energy, which is the antimatter system. That makes sense, that could be done. But the propulsion itself, to push the ship, it's called a warp drive, and that has to do with changing space itself and flying faster than the speed of light. We know what antimatter is, and that when you have antimatter and real matter and it comes together, you get a tremendous explosion, you get tremendous energy, E equal mc square, as Einstein said. And so this is the most powerful reaction you get in the universe, therefore the Starship Enterprise uses it.
So there are a number of models which are feasible for interstellar or even intergalactic travel. Nevertheless, we must be clear about one point. There may be so many possibilities we can't even think of. So at the moment we have theoretical models, but a highly advanced civilization, another solar system, much older than we are, may have discovered fantastic ways of traveling among the stars. And for them it may be like traveling from London to New York, traveling from Epsilon Eridani to the solar system.
The message from the alien visitors is becoming clear. The human race is producing more problems than it is solving. A change of direction is necessary to guarantee a safe transition into the future.
They are here to warn us. They started this program a couple of thousand years ago. They are very highly technical and spiritual advanced. These people have a technique that they can foretell development in cosmos for centuries. And they knew thousands of years ago what were going to happen on Earth. So they prepared for that situation. And we go forward to our time. Now they are here in our atmosphere in large numbers. They have always been here, but now they are here in large numbers to look over what we are doing, simply. because they know that we'll kill ourselves in many ways. If we don't push the button, we'll be killed by poison. If we don't kill each other by poison, we'll kill each other by too many people.
Energy is the lifeblood of civilized society, but it's also a tool that has to be controlled.
They are flying on what we call free energy. They take it out of cosmos and fly on it. And you could do the same with your boat, your car, your machinery. Everything on Earth could be completely free. Do you think that the oil companies and the coal companies and the atomic and so on and so forth would accept it? Never.
Despite our problems, we have gained a new conception of cosmic energy.
It turns out the universe is filled with energy, mind-boggling amounts of energy. As we like to point out, 1 cubic centimeter of vacuum, according to modern physics, can be calculated to have energy that can produce more mass than is in the observable universe. There's plenty of energy in the pure raw vacuum. We need to find a little process to get just a little bit of that, even the most inefficient process imaginable. 10 to the minus 80th, for example, is a great efficiency for this, and we can do that. The point is, we do not live in a closed system. That's the old physics. The new physics, since quantum mechanics, the vacuum is a source of energy, but it's a peculiar kind of energy. Let me explain the peculiar kind. When a bird flies in and sits on a power line, he sits on a very high potential. But between his 2 feet, he has no potential difference, no voltage. And so even though from the line to the ground, it may be 100 million volts, to use a theoretical figure or hypothetical figure, the little bird can sit very happily with his feet on this supposed 100 million volt line, and he has no volts across his body. He's very happy and doesn't even know it. Let him touch one of his feet to the slightest thing that has the slightest difference there, and he'll fry to a greasy spot. Now, in the vacuum, we have the same thing. We have an extremely high potential or charge of the vacuum, but we're immersed in the vacuum. And so the question is, we are like the little bird. Normally, what we put in the vacuum, we don't have any difference between 2 pieces of our machine, so we can't get a current. An analogy I use of tapping a paddle wheel in the river, what we tap the energy from is the current of the river, not the pressure in the water. And so our problem is to find a way to tap the pressure, so to speak, rather than the flow, or to convert the pressure into a flow. That can be done, and we can tap the inexhaustible energy that's in the vacuum, and it has been done. And when we do that, we can get plenty of clean, free electric power, right, straight from the vacuum itself. So, do I believe in free energy? I can prove conclusively that the energy is there. Nature has been very kind. We are free to do anything that we are smart enough to discover how, but we've got to use our brain and our mind to discover how. But the mechanism is there for us to do it. I fully believe that. And inventors I work with, I will state point blank, at least 2 of the very brilliant inventors I work with have produced free energy devices that are real and do work, and I personally have measured and dealt with the devices. They're real, they work, it can be done. And so it's an energy which has the aspect of restoring the biosphere and restoring life. For example, it's clean, so you wouldn't have all the pollutants from burning fuels and so forth, and for the nuclear byproducts and so forth. It's very clean fuel. You have absolutely nothing left but just energy. And you can transform it from either negative to positive. If you need to form a positive energy, you can do that. And you can transform it back to negative, and you can reach a very nice energy balance in nature. It has some other very positive benefits that don't show at first glance. The Earth, Sun, and Moon are connected not only by radiation of the normal electromagnetic energy, the external scattering stuff, but the half that's left out, the internal hidden energy. If you pollute one part of this system, the pollution feeds and spreads to the whole tri-system. Literally, we are polluting not only the Earth presently, but we are also polluting the Moon and the Sun in the scalar components. And that's what is gradually being radiated back to us. And so the very vital part of the energy that living systems have to have continually to be living systems and maintain their life is slowly being affected. And of course, we need to clean that act up right away, because that's the worst kind of pollution we can possibly have.
Earth, the gem of the cosmos, a living, breathing miracle of creation, the home of mankind, a partnership of dependency and loyalty to each other. The passing of time saw man forget his loyalty. He began to poison and suffocate his planet because of his growing need for power to fuel his technology. A scientist of great wisdom and vision, Nikola Tesla, foresaw this danger and offered the world his discovery of the magic wave as pollution-free energy. His offer was rejected.
Tesla gave you multi-phase power, he gave you AC power, the practical transmission of electrical power, the rotating electromagnetic field that made motors and generators possible. And so he literally helped you bring in the electrical 20th century. Had it not been for Nikola Tesla, your cities would still be dark, you still would not have electric power, and you'd still be struggling around in the dark. So yes, Nikola Tesla was important to us. Had we listened to Tesla about the other parts of the magic wave he had discovered, he would have given us cheap energy. I delivered a paper in Ottawa, Canada, where I gave the actual mechanism by which his amplified transmitter, his magnifying transmitter, actually worked. There are over 1,000 papers in the scientific literature that show that mechanism is real. It would have worked, and he could have given the world cheap energy. You could not, however, have had a power meter on that you sell it to folks. They could have tapped it cheaply and freely just for building the antennas and putting in the taps. And so the powers that be suppressed Tesla and Tesla's work because of the fact that he was going to get the power meter off of your power. He would have given you cheap energy and cheap power and clean power. He did give you radio, he gave you fluorescent lights, he gave you the things that made motors and generators, and he gave you the electrical 20th century. He would have given you a lot more had we listened to Tesla and funded him.
Tesla's advanced knowledge of the laws of electricity and magnetism, combined with his ability to put them into practice, gave him foresight into the next generation of electronics with regard to light and its structure. He was an ambitious man who was a great favorite in society, where he would show a light bulb in his hand burning without any electrical connection. Tesla said, "I could only achieve success in my life through self-discipline, and I applied it until my wish and my will became one."
He was a magnificent genius, and had he been funded to continue his work, the world would have been 100 years further in science than it is today. Here, some 80 years later, so to speak, after the collapse of his magnifying transmitter, and here we are trying to rediscover what Nikola Tesla was doing right at the turn of the century. And so we're almost a century behind where we should be. That's the importance of Nikola Tesla.
Progress is the process of moving forwards and not backwards. It is a combination of achievement and forward vision which serves its creator without fear of unforeseen consequences. There can be no progress if these rules are not observed.
People always back something they call progress without giving it a proper definition. I think technical innovation is not progress by a long way. Technical innovation can only be progressive when it is combined with a step in the direction of humanity, and it's just that I miss. Nuclear power stations are not progress. Because of this monstrous gigantomania in the buildings and the walled-up concrete areas and the risks, you are here playing with a fire that can't be put out. And the risks are extremely inhuman. And so these gigantic buildings are put up, and especially the military-industrial building complexes, which in the end all lead to the scars of this pseudo-progress, practically destroying the natural foundations of human life. and so that the whole of society becomes, in effect, a society of chaotic beings that will lead to global suicide.
Real progress is being made in a laboratory in Canada. Here, the full significance of the physical laws of light and space have become clear to John Hutchison, and he is utilizing this knowledge to produce cause and effect experiments which lead to an understanding of the harmony of nature. Science, in harmony with the laws of nature for the good of mankind, will hold great values in many fields and would advance its course beyond our present comprehension. John Hutchison has been working in the areas of electromagnetic forces and the changes in the molecular structure of materials for many years. He has in this time achieved a breakthrough in anti-gravity knowledge, providing spectacular examples of heavy objects flying through the air without any visible signs of propulsion. He has also made amazing discoveries concerning the alteration of compositions of materials by subjecting them to a form of electromagnetic bombardment.
We're looking at something which you know shouldn't be happening.
The result of these experiments showed in graphic detail metal heating to a near liquid state without heat. Hard metals would turn into soft rubbery objects, proving that any substance could change its form if the science involved was understood.
I immediately realized that this had tremendous significance. It had significance in space, it had military implications, and its understanding could possibly open up a whole new energy source.
Hutchison is one of the growing number of scientists who realize that by applying physics to the natural laws of the universe, science will be taken into areas previously unrecognized. John Hutchison's achievement will give science a new momentum as it moves into the next century.
Some of the work of the lone inventor, John Hutchison in Canada, Vancouver, Canada. Hutchison takes two Tesla coils and essentially puts in the center of them a target, which in every target has certain nonlinearities, and then blasts away with these two coils at them. Basically, what he establishes is an electromagnetic fighting itself, electromagnetic forces fighting themselves. And gravitational force is made when a gravitational potential is made when electromagnetic forces fight themselves to a draw, when, in other words, the gradients become zero. The gradient vectors or the resultants become zero, but the two forces are still in there slugging it out. All the energy is still going, the work is still going, but it's trapped locally. That's internal energy. That's what gravity is. And the Whittaker paper tells very well how to do that. So when John got things just right, he didn't have control of it, absolute control, but he bored in there with persistence. And when he got things just right to get the forces to fight to a draw, and there was the right nonlinearity in the target, he would have levitation of things even 64 pounds. He would also, another thing you do with such a thing is you cause the magnetostatic potential to change a vacuum. In other words, that's pole, an unfortunate name in magnetism. But in other words, it causes deposits of monopoles inside materials such as metals. And you'll literally have the monopoles repel each other, and you'll have the explosive separation of metals into all kind of grains and structures according to the waves in the Tesla coils that you're bombarding it with. And so he produced magnificent breaks, Hutchison did, in metals and splits as if it were Venetian blinds. And another thing it does, since this stuff comes from the nucleus out, it doesn't go through the electron shells. Its medium is the nuclei. What you have then is you have changes in the atomic nuclei, and which result in lattice changes. You have the production of alloys, which cannot be made in this world with normal processes. And some of those alloys appeared in John Hutchison's work as a result of that kind of bombardment. Another thing you have is once charged with scalar radiation, the nuclei then continue to discharge over a long period of time. And so the material continues to change, alloy form and so forth, over a period of even a year. And you had those changes occur in his work also. He was reproducing and has been reproducing some of the work in Nikola Tesla, and even some of it going further. But that's what he's doing. What he's doing is real. And unfortunately, Most people regard John Hutchison as being a little bit off and not really understanding electromagnetics, not really understanding a Tesla coil. Nothing could be further from the truth. He's doing the real electromagnetics. He's doing the kind of electromagnetics they don't know anything about. He's doing electrogravitation and real Tesla work.
The technology that we are aware of is quite staggering anyway. But then there is also the technology which the governments are putting together, which we don't know about. And they've obviously got their own reasons for their secrets. But if we had any comprehension of how advanced this technology was, then I think people would then begin to realize that even our own people are far more advanced than they would believe. And once they can realize how wrong they were in this direction, then they can start to wonder, well, if we are as advanced as this and with no idea of this, is it not feasible that there is something out there which is more advanced than this? And perhaps all the technologies which are being put together at this moment in time are catching up on our alien friends, which I very, very much doubt. But I'm sure that is the reason this technology is being put together. You've got to realize that things are not always as they seem. And once we can get out of this thinking, out of this box we're in, that there is something more than what we are being taught, what we have learned. There are things outside the scope of this. Then I think you'll begin to see the potential for people from out there visiting us. And not just now, not newly visiting us, but have been visiting us for hundreds of years.
Our presence within your solar system is to observe the evolutionary progress and environmental changes occurring not only to your planet, but to its people. Using a special observational technique enables us to foresee potential difficulties which may arise, and if necessary, give you advice on the course of action you need to overcome it.
To achieve these aims, we employ the use of many types of monitoring equipment, each with the responsibility for a different area of scientific investigation. Our use of telemeter discs of all sizes as remote-controlled sophisticated recording and analyzing vehicles is one of the many types of drones. We observe every aspect of your world and its inhabitants, from the environmental changes and pollution levels to the microbiological disease potential of mankind. Our techniques also enable us to record and analyze thought patterns, and therefore anticipate man's course of action before it is taken. There is nothing about your world and its people we are not aware of.
The truth about UFOs may be painful for us to face, and this might provide a continuing rationale for the government to maintain secrecy. But the truth will and must be known eventually. Continuing our denials and fears, in my opinion, are only adding to the problem. We are all in this together. In a time of opening relationships with the Soviet Union, we have the potential for radically demilitarizing our foreign policy, reallocating those resources toward preserving our planet and opening ourselves to the global village. Part of that new reality is embracing the unknown and the possibility that we have visitors beyond the Earth or beyond our dimensions of time and space. We must enter our new openness in peace and without recrimination. Our government of the people, by the people, and for the people needs to be involved in the process, not as a hostile, separate, secret unit. I therefore advocate an orderly, non-vindictive congressional investigation of UFOs and a change in government policy on supporting research in these and other phenomena. The late philosopher Joseph Campbell once said that we are living in a time in which our ignorance and our complacency are coming to an end. It's time we let go of our fears and evolve to a higher awareness of ourselves and our place in the universe.
Maybe the cover-up was in our best interest, maybe not. Maybe the government underestimated the intelligence of the American people and decided we just couldn't handle it. But let me tell you this, the truth is still the truth, and nothing can change that. Not the military, not the government, and not me.
However, in the last few years, there is an evolution in the whole extraterrestrial problem. An evolution so far that the sightings and the encounters become more concrete. We accumulate more and more cases where we get more and more information. More information is released by the governments. We know now that there was a cover-up for so many years. We have always speculated about this cover-up. Now we have proofs. We know that the secret services, not only in the United States but in other countries, have really fooled the public. And very likely extraterrestrial visitors know about this plot. And it is not surprising that in the last years more concrete information is released. Probably this may be a preparation for official contact. Perhaps it's in the interest of extraterrestrials to establish contact because humankind is in a very difficult position. This does not imply that we must depend on extraterrestrials to save our planets. We have to do it ourselves. But nevertheless, we are in a phase where we possibly take the next evolutionary step, a step that is so important because it will decide whether we will survive or simply vanish.
I oscillate between pessimism and optimism, and there's every reason to be pessimistic about the future. I mean, every sign of disaster is coming upon us ecologically, population explosion. You know, there's so many reasons why the present system can't continue. So the real question is whether humanity becomes extinct, civilization collapses, whether that happens, or whether somehow we go through a crisis and emerge into some new relationship with each other and with the natural world and with the spirit that lies behind the natural world and works within it. And I'm an optimist, so I hope that sooner or later we'll arrive at this new state of harmony. But I don't think we'll arrive at it just by waking up one morning and finding it's happened. I think that we'll have to go through a crisis first.
Although mankind has been faced with many crises throughout history, he has always been able to overcome them. Today, the vast power and unlimited potential of man's mind is understood. In fact, he's created computers that can pick up and even reflect his own thoughts. Man is a complex whole, possessing the capability to make matter visibly change. With the power of his mind, he can tap the energy source of the cosmos to manifest all possible necessities of life for himself. Thoughts are energy. Energy influences matter. The technology involved is one of peace, as it eliminates war. And it's only a matter of time before everyone discovers this ability.
If we can create in the laboratory, without any doubt, a mind-over-matter interaction that's a few parts in 10,000, certainly all you have to do is extrapolate that a little bit to come up with a mind-over-matter mastery that could happen later in our own development, and certainly what seems to be true in some of the UFO visitations. And of course also we have various case studies like Sai Baba being able to materialize and dematerialize things in his hand, or various forms of levitation. These are all things that are very real. They're not, drummed up by people. It's just that our ability to face that reality has been quite compromised. I should have known all along that the so-called new physics, in a way, actually makes all of this possible. That in a way, we physicists have kind of forgotten what we're all about. Einstein one time said that the whole purpose of science is to awaken the cosmic spiritual feeling And we scientists are among the last to embrace that.
The cosmos is the energy and lifeblood of all things. Man is part of this energy and therefore holds the potential to achieve literally anything. Science is in the early stages of attuning to this enormous reservoir of knowledge where anything is possible. Our comprehension of such things is limited only by the painful realization of change. The idea of a living cosmos is such a new concept that we have not accorded it its rightful place.
Contrary to the popular view, it can be shown and conclusively proved that that has an internal structure of incredible order and beautiful order. It's filled with electromagnetic waves going in bidirections. Pick a frequency, there's a wave going in one direction and a wave in the other direction. The wave that's going backwards is an anti-wave. It's a time-reversed wave. And the vacuum is structured, this potential, a vacuum is just potential is all it is. This potential is filled with a harmonic series of these waves. And so it structures spatially by bidirectional wave sets, and it structures vertically in terms of harmonics. Now, if you then invoke this structure, and you do that with a nonlinear material, and you put in one wave in the nonlinear material, that material will take from the vacuum that excess structure because it turns everything into a potential, and it will put out multiple frequencies and harmonics. That's what nonlinear materials do. Interestingly enough, if you take time-reversed waves and put in those harmonics, when they back up through, they will restore one wave. You can gather the energy and collect it and integrate it together and produce a single thing of much greater energy and lower frequency. And so what you have is the vacuum structures in frequency and spatially, and the connection are waves. And by the way, these waves do not have to move at the speed of light. They can have much greater velocity. Now, the importance of Whittaker's work is that he showed that if you were to take sets of waves that you made on the bench, you made a wave and its anti-wave, and you made the harmonic and its anti-harmonic, you'd have to have at least one interval. In music, we would call that an octave, you know, from C to the next C, for example. If you had at least one octave or one harmonic interval, you would then have a structured vacuum. Now, you can build such sets as these any way you wish to, and each one of those sets is a special form that you can build on the laboratory bench. There is a set, for example, that contains the electromagnetic parts that generate typhoid. That's Kazanashev's work, and that's Kazanashev's death photons that have been shown to carry death and disease. That work has been duplicated in West Germany, or Germany now, and also has been duplicated in Australia and here in the U.S. It also explains the work of Antoine Priori, who built a machine under the proper scientific auspices and under rigorous testing on lab animals, which cured cancer and leukemia almost 100%. Some eminent French scientists worked with him. It's still in the French medical literature. It was real, it existed. It was squelched. But what I'm saying is, if you use the Whittaker approach, you can now, for the first time, understand how Priori's device worked, because that's what it did. And he used a rotating plasma to make his phase conjugates. We didn't even know about the phase conjugate in those days. Today, we know that one of the things plasmas do under the right circumstances is phase conjugate, or time reverse. And he showed that you can cure cancer, leukemia. You could just as easily set a pattern that would cure AIDS. He showed you could clean out clogged arteries. You could change the immune system, increase the immune system, bring it back up, which would be very valuable to AIDS patients, for example. For every disease, there is a pattern which causes the disease in this structure. For the cure to every disease, you simply take its pattern and time reverse it, and you get the precise electromagnetic antidote. You then put that inside a potential, as Whittaker showed how to do, and you treat the body with that, which is like like normal electromagnetic radiation. It's not ionizing radiation. It's not nuclear radiation. Expose them to a rippling magnetic field, for example, with these embedded in the field. and you cure the disease. And that's the kind of medical treatment we ought to have, not this cut them and burn them and poison them type thing that we have now, and many of them are still dying with cancer, leukemia, and AIDS. It would take about 3 years. It would take a team of about 30-something people, facilities and so forth, about 3 years, about $20 million a year to deliver the ability to do that kind of electromagnetic treatment.
Yes, our knowledge grows rapidly in almost every discipline. Conservative scientists in the past, or if you like, futurologists, have always been too cautious, too conservative in their estimates. We know that there's a turnover every 5 years of doubling our knowledge, with the consequence that we have a completely different view in the world. Most people can't even keep up anymore with the advance in science. They have problems understanding modern computer science, cybernetics, biogenetic engineering, or nuclear physics. We talk today about great unified models of the natural forces. The man on the street can't keep up, and he is only superficially informed about new aspects. We don't know what will happen in 20, 50, 100, or 1,000 years. However, there's one thing we do know, that whatever happens in the future, science will have advanced far more than we can possibly think of today. And no imagination, no fantastic model that we may produce today will justifiably come close to the actual advance in 1,000 years.
We really do have, right now, available to be born a completely new and drastically extended and drastically more capable physics, which unfortunately 4 nations of the world have weaponized but kept secret from their citizens and from the rest of the world. And what I am saying is that it's high time that instead of just using this in secret to build more weapons to kill more people and hurt more people or control more people, what we need to do is bring this out in the open and let's use it for the positive benefits, to heal people, to give them cheap energy and clean energy, to clean up the biosphere, to clean up our whole act, to be able to heal all these diseases and this kind of thing. That's what I'm saying we've got to get on with the job.
Life on your Earth is dependent on new sciences and technology to achieve advancement. When your governments were first introduced to our advanced technology, their reactions were horrendous. Because the motive to gain power and control people was foremost in their mind, the technology was suppressed from the world. Technology should be made to work for the good of all, and placed in the hands of people of understanding who care and can control it towards a free world.
I think the first point in overcoming any difficulty or any problem or any crisis is to have the faith that something better is possible. Without faith, without trust that it can work out better, without the vision of something greater, it won't happen. So I think we have to have some kind of vision, some kind of faith. In traditional Christian terms, this is the idea of the kingdom of heaven. And most visionary schemes in the West are under the influence of this Judeo-Christian model, that at the end of history, there'll be a new era, a new dawn, a new age, the kingdom of heaven. A utopia. Well, I mean, there are many different ways of formulating this. We have to think this. I think it's built into our whole civilization. It's very difficult for us not to think this. Or at least if we don't think it, we despair.